to the first ever Sikyong debate. My name is Putula Karpuche, and I am a member of Provincial Parliament in Ontario. I am joining live from Toronto, Canada, which is situated in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Huron-Wendat, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. An important part of a strong democracy is public debate amongst its leadership candidates. There are no media or associations who have organized such a debate before the first elections on January 3rd, 2021. So this debate has been organized to help inform voters in advance of the first primary vote. Organizers of today's debate are an independent group of Tibetans living in North America who have extensive experience in activism, journalism, public service at the federal, provincial, or university levels. Members of the organizing committee include Tenzin Kangser of Vancouver, Canada, former Chief of Staff to Canadian Ministers, Chimil Hamo of Toronto, Canada, former President of the University of Toronto Student Union, Tobden Sering of San Francisco, United States, former editor of the Tibetan Bulletin, and Rignam Wongkang, journalist and producer based in Toronto, Canada. The committee has also prepared the questions for this debate. I was invited to moderate the debate by the committee, and I am pleased to have accepted. This is an English language debate in an effort to make Tibetan politics more accessible to younger generations and to those who do not have a solid grasp of Tibetan. This debate will also help voters to determine which candidates would be most effective in international advocacy, an area where the primary language of diplomacy is English. We hope that this English language debate can inspire others to organize similar debates in Tibetan and English before the January 3rd election. All Sikyong candidates were invited to participate in the debate. Kasur Ngudup Tungchula was invited but declined to participate. Kunga Pematsernila was invited but declined to participate. Kasur Losanyadala has accepted and is here with us today. Kasur Dumagerila has accepted and is also here with us today. Kungo Kesang Okata Kedorla has accepted and is here with us today. Acharya Ishibuntala has accepted and is here with us today. Tashi Tobgila was invited but has declined to participate. And I want to thank the 4 candidates for joining us today. You can find the bios of the candidates on their websites or social media pages. I will now go over the format of the debate. We will begin with a 2-minute opening statement from all candidates. Then we will proceed with 2 rounds of questions. The first round of 7 questions are the same and will be asked of each candidate, and they will have 90 seconds to answer them. The second round are 2 specific questions for each candidate with 60 seconds to answer them. We will then end with a 2-minute closing statement from all candidates. For each of the response, the candidates will receive a 10-second warning during which they will be asked to wrap up. If the candidates go over time, their mics will be muted. This is to ensure that every candidate gets the exact amount of speaking time and that we're able to go through all of the questions within the allotted debate time. I will take the opportunity now to thank the volunteers working behind the scenes on the technical aspects of this debate. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us. Now, I'd like to invite the candidates for the opening statements. And we will begin with Kasur Losanyadala.
Just yeah. Yeah, I can speak of sound. If someone can fix that, please.
Kasula, please go ahead.
All right. So, I have a very kind of sound problem here. So whether you maybe hear me or not well. Anyway, let me go ahead. Just to let everybody. It's while I truly appreciate the organizers of this in this debate, I'm saddened by the fact that no one in our community came forward to organize a similar debate in Japan. This election is taking place at a critical time of our freedom struggle. The goal, therefore, is not just to elect a leader, but to elect someone who has a good track record of experience and achievement, who has special plans and a clear vision to lead the Tibetan people during this critical time, and most importantly, who is willing to deliver substantial results. The reason why I ran for this election is my confidence in making a difference in our freedom struggle, as well as improving the lives of Tibetan people. Many of you know me for my more than service to the Tibetan community, starting as a grassroots worker for the Tibetan Youth Congress, and later as Kalin in the three major departments under Professor Sandhu's leadership. As a former representative of His Holiness Dalai Lama, I have successfully engaged the White House, the US Congress, the Canadian government, and the Parliament. I am certain that my past experiences and my leadership skills have prepared me well to take over on any challenge on a national level and to help us thrive politically, culturally, and economically. Starting last month, I made three major policy announcements. One, that I will work to re-establish Sino-Tibetan dialogue and bring about substantial progress in negotiation. Two, create a digital platform for Project Stronghold for Tibetan in the West to protect Tibetan language and culture. And three is to resettle 10,000 Tibetans from India and Nepal to Western countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Kasu Domagerila. Do we have Kasu Domagerila on screen? Okay, perhaps we will move on to the next speaker, and that is Kungokedorla. Kungokedorla, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. The Tibetan freedom struggle and the Tibetan community is at a critical stage. His Holiness is now 85 years old. He will be 90 in 5 years. The situation inside Tibet is getting from bad to worse. But positively, in the international arena, there is a basis to be hopeful as there is a realignment of power relations happening. So in this very critical moment, now is not the time to be content with the status quo and to be content with incremental changes. We need some fundamental changes. So when I announced my candidacy on September 2nd, I laid out a very clear vision and a plan in terms of moving the entire Tibetan CTA and the Tibetan community more towards freedom movement, freedom creation, and less administration. And also, I have laid out a very clear plan in terms of transforming the CTA into more of a 21st century organization. Over the last 9 years, I have worked with this current Sikyong as well as the past two Kashaks, and I have developed a very in-depth and intimate experience at the very highest level of the CTA and Tibetan leadership. And now I would like to harness and make available my experience and my expertise and use it towards advancing the Tibetan freedom struggle and bringing about the changes that we need. So in I would like to request everyone to look at some of my initiatives on the website, and yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Acharya Ishipunsula. Do we have Acharya Ishipunsula on screen? Okay. How about Kasur Domagerila? Can we have her for the opening statements? I apologize. It seems like we are facing some technical issues as we have candidates joining us live from across the world. We will move ahead with the first round of questions. So the first question is on the Sino-Tibetan dialogue. And the question is, there's been a complete breakdown of the Tibetan-Sino dialogue since the last contact in 2010 between the representatives of the Tibetan government in exile and the CCP. What will you do that hasn't already been done to revive negotiations with China toward achieving genuine autonomy for Tibet as enshrined in the Tibetan Middle Way approach policy? And we will start with Kedorla.
Thank you, Butila. I think now is the time to really double down on the middle way approach. I think the basic framework that we have right now in place will remain. We're so fortunate to have His Holiness the Dalai Lama with us, who, as we all know, is really the source of this vision and this policy. So he and his office, the Ganden Podang, will continue to take a lead role on this. And as we know, even though the government-to-government dialogue has stalled since 2010, but back channels continue. So there are contacts happening as we speak. So it remains to be seen if those contacts lead to anything substantial. But in the meantime, I think what we need to do is, as I've been saying to the community members, is we need to do less waiting and be more proactive. I think we need to have this dual track process where on the one hand, His Holiness and the Ganden Podang Chinese liaison section continue to do what they do. And on a parallel track, we also try to apply maximum pressure on the Chinese government. And the only way we can do that is by going on a more kind of activist and initiative-driven approach, because we all know that the Chinese government do not respect weakness or kind of just being gentle, right? We have to be firm. We have to show strength to them. And I think the only way we can do that is to have more campaigns and just take the CTA and the Tibetan leadership further down this activist driven kind of a movement building kind of an approach.
Thank you very much. Your time is up, Kedorla. So the same question for Kasur Lobsanyandala.
Thank you very much. Well, I had an equal problem, and it looks like it's still repeating despite the fact that I'm using my AirPod. Must be the top priority of the CTA. Given the difficult time we are talking about, we do not have the luxury to wait hope for a better situation. We must be strategic and proactive in our approach and take advantage of the political stability invasion of China. And measure the shift in today's international relations. I'm optimistic. I believe that we could reestablish equality by China. The concern that the present China cannot be accepted should not be the reason to keep up with China. The geopolitical role is now ever. It is now or never has to change. The world's democratic countries, including the US and Australia, are convinced that the Communist Party is a threat to democracy and freedom. China's attempt to establish a new world order is a direct threat to the liberal right.
Thank you so much. Kasu Lobsanyandala, may I please request that you use headphones for this debate, because we are getting an echo and your sound is not very clear. We really want to make sure that the audience is able to hear your response clearly. So if you could take a moment now to please put on a headset. Before we move on to the next question, I want to share a quick update. Acharya Yeshipuntula, who had confirmed for the debate and was present for the testing just an hour ago, has not attended this debate at the very last minute. So we will be proceeding without him. Kasur Domagerila is having a technical issue with the video. And so as soon as that is fixed, we will welcome her into the debate and give her an opportunity to give the opening statement and answer the questions that you may have missed. I do want to assure everybody that we did do a technical run right before going live, and everything was very smooth. And apologies for the technical issues we're experiencing right now. Okay, moving along to the next question. This one is on international advocacy. The question is, when it came to the issue of human rights abuses by China, Tibet once dominated the conversation. Today, the headlines in the media are about China's violation of human rights occupied in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Uyghurs, and Tibet is trailing far behind. How do you propose to regain Tibet's prominence in the international consciousness? And so first, we will go to Kedarullah again.
Yes, I think that's quite accurate in terms of these days when we look at the Tibet, look at the international media, the mention, Tibet is not mentioned as much as, say, 10, 15 years ago. And I think the primary reason for that is we have really not really taken on, that many initiatives, and we haven't really done enough, I think, international advocacy on a scale that we need to be doing. And this is something which is really, really important right now. I think we have to have a clear communication strategy. We have to beef up our offices of Tibet. We have to add more staff. We need to work with the Tibet support groups more closely and in a more coordinated way. And I think we just really need to do more initiatives. So I think some of the things we're seeing recently, Budula, including kind of your effort to get the Ontario legislature to recognize July as a Tibet Heritage Month, which is really applaudable. Thank you so much. And similarly.
Thank you so much, Kedarullah. I have just received an update that Kasur Domagerila is ready, and so we will move on to her with the opening statement. Domagerila.
Well, I hope you can hear me now, everybody.
Yes, we do.
Well, this is a program that I've been waiting for and looking forward to, especially because of who the moderator was. But however, I don't know how this technical problem came up. So, I think it is better that I leave you with the two, other contestants, and also maybe, otherwise, I think my coming in at this moment would disturb the whole, the format that you have in mind. So I apologize for the technical problem that has occurred, and everything was perfectly fine just few minutes before uh, the
Um,
test
Kasur,
was done. So thank you very much, and I hope I
Kasur
see you
Dumagerla,
in other programs in the future. Best of luck to
Kasur
everybody.
Dumagerla,
Thank you so
we would love for you to continue because we do have time allotted. And so we would love for you to stay on with this debate, especially given that you are already able to join us right now and the
much. Are
technical
you
issues
sure?
seems
Are
to
you
have
sure? Are you
resolved.
sure?
So would you like to give your opening statement?
Well, actually, I was looking forward, and I have, like today, fighting all odds, standing up for what I believe is right. And even in my life, I think, I have really started from the very bottom in all aspects that I had had the fortune to serve. Be it in the Tibetan Youth Congress, I started really down at a very young age of 16, went through from a regional chapter to serving in the central executive, and then also in the Tibetan Parliament. I started as a member of parliament at the age of 26, and then I was from the Dote right down bottom at number 10 when I first started. We have 10 candidates, that are elected. Then by the time I've completed and contested my fourth consecutive election to the House, fortunately, I was appreciated. I was understood by the voters, I would believe, and they took me to number one, or giving me the highest number of votes from my constituency by the time I was serving my fourth term in the parliament, my consecutive fourth term. I also had the good fortune of being consecutively elected three times as the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament. For the first 10 years, almost 10 years, I served as a member of the Parliament under the chairmanship of His Eminence Samdong Rinpoche. Then after that, I still hold, I think, I could proudly say, hold the record of being the the Tibetan woman who has been elected to the highest, office in protocol in the Tibetan administration, and that too for being the only one being elected three times to the post of deputy speaker.
Thank
I
you.
say this because then I think this will reflect as to how I have understood, learned, and come, and my experience, my background, of a legal background. I'm sure now the time is right. The world is changing, and we have to be able to take our step forward and not be left behind. And so, therefore, the
Thank
Tibetan issue, the political issues must be brought in the front burner.
Thank you very much. And I would like to continue with you with the first two questions that we had asked. The first question is, given the breakdown of the Sino-Tibetan dialogue since the last contact in 2010, what will you do that hasn't already been done to revive the negotiations with China towards achieving genuine autonomy as enshrined in the Middle Way approach?
Well, I have said it in my manifesto, and I repeat it here again that at a time where we do not have any formal contact or negotiation with the PRC, we must do everything, anything possible in our hands to create such an environment that will drive us towards a negotiation or a dialogue. And for this, I principally believe that first thing we should do as example to create that conducive atmosphere I've been saying is based on the principle of middle way approach, which is the best and I believe the only way out for us, that is through non-violence, through dialogue, as shown to us by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. But we have to maybe discuss about announcing the memorandum for genuine peace, memorandum for genuine autonomy that has been given to the Chinese from our side in 2008. It is now 12 years. We must discuss about declaring it ineffectual and move.
Thank you very much. So the second question to you again is, given that the media headlines currently is dominated about China's human rights violations in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Uyghur, and Tibet trailing far behind, how do you propose we regain Tibet's prominence in the international consciousness?
Well, I certainly believe that we should be able to bring to attention that Tibet is not just a human rights issue. We have to highlight and bring up the political aspect of Tibet. Until unless there is a political solution to Tibet, the human rights situation doesn't change. And at the same time, there has to be bilateral relations that has to be worked on, and also at the United Nations. I believe that the United Nations Initiative Committee that was there earlier must be reconstituted.
Thank you very much. So the second question now to Kasirlosa Nyadala. I hope that we have established a proper sound connection this time. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Go ahead.
In fact, thank you very much. I had this technical glitch, and my opening remarks was also not being heard properly by the audience, as well as my very important question about the Sino-Tibetan dialogue also was not being heard well by my audience. So I hope that you'll give me 90 more seconds to just answer to the first question that you've asked me, and then I'll be answering the second question about the international advocacy. Will that be okay, Putila?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate this. On Sino-Tibetan dialogue, I think that it must be the top priority of the CTA. Given the critical time we are passing through, we do not have the luxury to wait and hope for a better situation. We must be strategic and proactive in our approach and take advantage of the prevailing political situation of China and the major geopolitical shift in today's international relations. I'm optimistic. I believe that we could reestablish Sino-Tibetan dialogue. The concern that the present Chinese leadership cannot be trusted should not be the reason to give up on dialogue. The geopolitics of the world is now in favor of us. It is now or never to grasp this opportunity. So the world's democratic countries, including United States and Australia, are convinced that the Chinese Communist Party is a threat to democracy and freedom. So China's attempt to establish a new world order is a direct threat to the liberal ideas of the Western world. So having said that, I wanted to touch on the second question about the international advocacy. I will, of course, immediately work to establish a group of like-minded countries, including the United States, Japan, Australia, India, and European countries to further the goal of Tibetan people. This group will be requested to spearhead our call for a speedy resolution of Tibet issue. I will seek international parliamentary support and work to pass resolutions in support of Sino-Tibetan dialogue, recognition of the CTA and the Dalai Lama Institution. I will work closely with the Tibet support groups around the world and organize an international conference on the future of Tibet to demonstrate that both the critical Tibet issue and the urgent need to resolve the Tibet issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, our question is on the topic of diaspora affairs. And the question is, one of the biggest challenges facing Tibetans in India and Nepal is the lack of employment. CTA is unable to absorb the increasing number of students graduating from Indian universities every year. What will you do to create job opportunities for young Tibetans? And first, we have Kedorla.
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to do is transform the education system in India. Right now, we have quantity, but we don't have quality. So I think we need to really, there's a whole generation that's been lost. So I think we need to really start now from scratch. And I have an early childhood development program from 0 to 5 years old, where we actually really redo the whole education system. That's the first thing. Secondly, we need to provide more skilling programs because students who are graduating from our schools, they are not able to compete and they don't have employability skills. So we need to provide more skilling programs. And then in the settlements, I think we need to get into more public-private partnerships and for-profit enterprises, because in the exile situation in India, almost 99% of the development projects that CTA is involved with, it's all non-profit related, and these are not viable. So we need to get more into for-profit initiatives. So things like the Tibetan Bank, which the CTA has launched, which I was part of. I think it's a great effort and a solution to addressing some of the unemployment in the community. And then I think we just need to have more programs in the settlement where we can provide jobs and more training.
Same question for you, Dumukyarila.
Pujala, I would say that with my experience as a Kalin for 5 years, looking after a program called the Youth Empowerment Program for the Tibetans in exile, I would definitely say that the CTA has been doing whatever is best, but definitely I would use my office to create more opportunities according to the qualification of our children today in various companies and different private sectors. At the same time, I would agree with Kedola that we really need to improve the quality of education, and for that, I believe emphasize on STEM, the science, technology, engineering, maths. This is where you know can lead to a proper secured jobs. And my Kashak, as I've said in my manifesto, will not only look for more seats for Tibetan children to study such programs, but also look for the job opportunities. Secondly, as a minister for home, uh, I was able to work under the leadership of Sikyong of Singh to establish a policy by the government of India, whereby now our Tibetan settlements are open. The land of our settlements can be used for other purposes other than agriculture. Therefore, I also encourage not only.
Thank you very much. And the final speaker for this question is Lobsang Yandala.
Thank you, Putila. For a settlement to become resilient, we must have a society that is vibrant with cultural and economic activities. But we lack economic opportunities in our settlements. Settlements can hardly employ 10% of its population. According to CTA's Department of Home data, 22% of the Tibetan population is below the poverty line of less than $1 a day. Only 39% of the Tibetan workforce in India and Nepal is fully employed. So I will adopt agribusiness development as the CTA's main strategy for agricultural settlements to achieve the following goals: increase profits for declining numbers of farmers, create self-sustaining agribusinesses and settlements, inspire and encourage entrepreneurial youth who are interested in agribusinesses. Each agribusiness development venture should have a public-private partnership model of collaboration between the crop-specific farmer-producer company at the settlement level, an autonomous agriculture holding company established by the CTA at the central level, and an established Indian company to form a joint venture with the holding company with ready buyers and capacity to handle storage, processing, marketing, branding, and distribution on behalf of the public-private partnership joint venture. I will proactively develop opportunities for small enterprise development with local entrepreneurs in each settlement, by conducting studies of potential business growth areas, identify interested.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Apologies, your time is up. The next question is on cultural preservation. And the question is, the rising migration of Tibetans from Nepal and India has led to more communities scattered throughout North America and Europe. This has caused some challenges to cultural preservation, particularly the preservation of the Tibetan language. What steps will you take to preserve language and tradition, particularly among children and youth? And first, we will go to Domagerila.
As I come to speak on this very important topic, I would first like to, congratulate and also appreciate the efforts that has been put in this field by the various Tibetan associations and volunteers in preserving our language, bringing our music, dance, culture to the younger generations there. And I think now the time has come that we must have a proper school, a school which would be affiliated with the best of institute over there, yet at the same time have a hostel and an environment, a Tibetan environment. And for this, I would definitely like to start in one of the places in the United States as a pilot project. And I'm sure that it will be a good start.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. The same question for Kedorla.
Well, the essence of the Tibetan freedom struggle is really the preservation of language and culture. So if I get the support and become the next Sikyong, I will do a number of things. I will set aside and create a new language fund and undertake a major initiative to publish more books, more videos, more animation and other materials. I will also revamp the Department of Religion and Culture, because right now, the department, even though it's doing an excellent work, but I think it could be doing much more in the area of language and culture. I will also create a fund to support more Tibetan artists because they are the keepers of our culture. And I will also work with monastic community, especially since we have a lot of geishas and kempos and geshemas. So when they get their degrees, I think they should be spending less time in the monastery, and they should be really coming out and teaching, Tibetans, whether in the settlements or in the schools or in the general community, so that we have them as an important resource. And I will also integrate, Tibetan medicine, Western medicine, and see how we can come up with new ways to tackle mental health, etc. Using the deep knowledge of Tibetan Buddhism and Tibetan culture. And of course, in the West, I will strengthen the weekend schools.
Next, we have Losan Yadala with the same question.
Thank you very much, Mutila. I have a plan to launch Project Songtsen, a digital platform to preserve and promote Tibetan language and culture for Tibetans in Western countries. CTA should seriously, not just symbolically, focus on the needs of growing number of Tibetans in Western countries. CTA data says that 45% of Tibetans are already settled in the West. The biggest challenge we face in this part of the world is our inability to make the new generation of Tibetans to speak in Tibetan language. Project Songtsen provide an easy access to every Tibetan family, no matter where you are located, to learn one's own language and culture. This project will build a virtual Tibetan community that will be connected digitally and emotionally towards our common cause. one important thing that we need to understand is why many other different cultures in Western countries, especially in America, still, thrives, including Chinese community, Vietnamese, Koreans. It's all because they have number of, people who are settled in particular, areas. So I believe that, we need to resettle more Tibetans from South Asia to settle down in Western countries so that our rich cultural heritage can be preserved and protected in these parts of the world.
Thank you very much. The next question is on empowering the Central Tibetan administration. And the question is, what plan do you have to increase Green Book Chate contributions? We will start with Domagerila.
Well, I believe that the Green Book, the Chate Lagdip, Chate Lagdip, should actually be made, um, you know, uh, much more accessible and easier to get, and also, though of course it has, a certain contribution has to be made, but since it is your identity certificate as a Tibetan national, it should be the right of every Tibetan people to be able to have one. So, therefore, I would want to make every necessary amendment that would be required, table it in the House so that the regulations thereof are such that makes it easy for everyone who wants to have a green book to have one.
Thank you very much. We will go to Lobsang Nyadala next.
In Putila, yes, your question is very specific about chattel or green book. So I have two plans. One, of course, we have to have a mandatory basic chattel fixed to all Tibetans, all bona fide Tibetans. At the same time, I'll come up with an idea or a plan to allow Tibetans to make donation. So whosoever are making a donation every year, maybe 10 times the chattel contribution that we are making now, that individual or that family will always be issued a recognition certificate by the CTA, so that in order for every one of us Tibetans, scattered in diaspora, they will, feel inspired, not just as a mandatory making a contribution of $96, but in fact they can even contribute $1,000 a year to support the good works of the Central Tibetan Administration. This is one area, my focus. And the second is, I also wanted to initiate a change in the law or policy of the CTA so that the non-Tibetan spouse of a Tibetan family can also be recognized as a bona fide citizen of Tibet. Which is happening everywhere in the world. Like in America, we are a Tibetan national, but we are an American citizen. So similarly in Canada. So why not a non-Tibetan spouse of a Tibetan family cannot become a citizen of Tibet and contribute in charter contribution? Thank you.
And the final speaker for this question is Kedorla.
Yes, contribution from the Green Book right now brings in only around 8 to 9% of CTA's total annual revenue. So it's far too less. So as the next Sikyong, I will try to double that if I can. And the good thing is, during my time as a SAR director, we already began this process of digitizing. And I think the CTA will, in the next 4 or 5 months, we'll have an announcement, I'm sure, because we've already hired an IT firm in Mumbai, and they're already working on this project of enabling people to give the Green Book contribution online. But I think we need to make the Green Book much easier to apply, make changes. So in my first 100 days as a Sikyong, I will set up a joint task force of the executive and the legislature and look at what are the issues that is preventing us from getting more revenues from Green Book. And then I think the things which the executive can do, I will implement them right away. But things which require approval from the legislature will obviously have to go there. But also, let's not forget the Blue Book. Blue Book is, again, another vast, untapped source, I think. So we need to just make it easier for Tibetans and non-Tibetans to be able to make these small donations, which will add up, because otherwise, right now, there is too much reliance on big, government grants.
Thank you very much. Our next topic is harmony, and the question is, harmony within our community is increasingly becoming a challenge. What concrete measures will you enact to bring more harmony and unity in the Tibetan community? So back to you again first, Kedorla.
Thank you, Butula. Very important question. As you know from my campaign slogan, one leader, one government, one nation, one people, one struggle. My whole campaign slogan is really about unity. And I think if we can all believe in that, I think, we can kind of address this issue. But really, I think there is a big disconnect between how most of us, say, we all respect His Holiness. But I think we need to really implement, and we need to really abide by, his wishes. And I think if we can do that, I think we'll be good. And as the next Sikyong, what I want to do is I want to actually set aside one day in the week where people will have direct access to the Sikyong and his office, so that they can come and present their problems and their challenges and their needs. And I think the more we can have the Sikyong interact directly with the people and set that example, I think that's going to be really, really helpful in bringing forward, kind of this sense of unity and taking people along in the same direction. So that's what I intend to do. I intend to go out and spend as much time as possible, with the people, and get to hear their views and their problems and day-to-day challenges, and then really come up with solutions. So I think with that kind of approach, I think we will have more unity. And also, I think it's good to have the CTA become more of a professional organization, where we really are more outcome-driven, more data-driven, and so that there's less of the old politics and old boy network system. So if we can transform the CTA in that direction, where it's more of a professional outfit, then again, I think it'll set a great example.
Thank you very much, Kedorla. The same question next is Loksan Yadala.
Yes, in fact, I do agree with you about the state of disharmony in our community. One fundamental fact that Tibetans ignore is that in times of need, only Tibetans can help each other, be it via political persecution take place in any part of Tibet, or a natural disaster happening in any place in the 3 provinces of Tibet. Tibetans from all over the world will stand together in solidarity and support. We have stood together in a number of times in the past. So let us therefore not talk about supporting candidate only from your own province or your own village. In fact, everyone knows from my 3 fundamental principles or commitments, 2 of them are related to unity. One, they are harmony and inclusiveness. These are my 2 fundamental principles, which will drive my policies and actions. I will ensure that Tibetans from all walks of life are included in every policy I adopt, including participating together in a political movement to achieve our common goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Domagarila with the same question on harmony.
not just the Sikyong aspirants, but every Tibetan that we speak to would say what we are all going to say or have said here today. But at the same time, I would look back to the 60 years that we had in exile. And this is really not the first time that we have had such an incident of uh, a setback, a disharmony, or whatever term that you may use. Uh, and so much so as to in 2016, we all would remember that it really drove His Holiness the Dalai Lama to such an extent that His Holiness not only just thought but actually said that it is better that I not be here. So this is something I think all of us should always remember, keep in our minds, and make sure that we do not repeat all that was done. And having said that, I would feel during the course of these elections also, the voters, when you nominate, when you elect, this is the time you are sowing the seed. So therefore, if the seed is good, the outcome would be good. So therefore, please vote the candidate, the best candidate you think is for the nation, the one you think is the best for the nation. And me, if I am elected, if I am elected as the Sikyong, one of the first things that I will do is to compose, to appoint, to have in my kashak such Kalins, such persons that any Tibetan looking at the kashak would feel confident that this is my kashak.
Thank you very much for that. The next and final question for round one is on succession planning. The question is, the Chinese government is hoping that the Tibet issue will end with the Dalai Lama. In the very unimaginable, frightening, and deeply sad circumstance of His Holiness the Dalai Lama passing on, what will you do as Sikyong to ensure that the Tibet issue remains alive? How will you offset China's attempts to recognize their own reincarnation of His Holiness? And we will begin with Lobsang Yandala.
Thank you, Putila. This is indeed one of the main concerns of not only the Tibetan people, but the millions of followers of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as well as people who are supporting the Tibet cause. But at the same time, it is little early to discuss the issue of succession publicly when His Holiness is healthy and energetic. But at the same time, we need to be prepared for such, eventually internally amongst ourselves. What we need to understand is that there will be a major impact when His Holiness is no more with us. Central Tibetan administration and our democratic institutions are the best bet to ensure continuity of our freedom struggle. Two of my main objectives. One is to strengthen Tibetan democratic institutions, and protection of the Dalai Lama institutions are exactly the efforts towards this end. As I always believe that the Dalai Lama institution is not just for the 6 million Tibetan people. This is an institution which leads the Tibetan Buddhist world. This is an institution which is regarded as the most revered moral leader in the international community. So it is high time for each one of us. How can we protect the institution of the Dalai Lama? How can we further strengthen the institution of the Dalai Lama? I believe that the 6 million Tibetan people alone cannot go that far. So we need support from international community. Different governments, including India, and United States, and other European countries. Once we have recognition and support of this institution from the international community, I'm certain that we can definitely have a brighter future for the Tibetan people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Same question for Domagerila.
The time is right for us to move forward, to move forward and claim legitimacy to the Central Tibetan administration. That is one. Therefore, we must put all of our efforts for recognition of the Central Tibetan administration as the legitimate voice of the 6 million Tibetan people, and that this is the government in exile in continuation of the Gandhi Potang government that was devolved into a democratic structure by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The other thing is that I have been talking about it everywhere, and it's very much in my manifesto. That is to work from the base and then to the race. That is to start with India. To as we are stationed here, our administration is here, and also India happens to be our largest neighbor. Therefore, that Tibet and China are two different nations. That today Tibet is an occupied nation. To get that kind of a recognition is so very important for us. And my Kashak is going to work towards it. And I'm confident that having looked at the results that we have achieved in the United States and also in Canada and at the European Union, definitely now time has come that we must be able to lobby more in India.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have Kedorla.
Well, succession is obviously a super critical issue, and I'm very, very optimistic that His Holiness will continue to be with us for many, many, many years to come. But having said that, we have to make sure that His Holiness the Dalai Lama's lineage continues, because this is, I think, is unimaginable to have a situation without His Holiness. So I'm very hopeful that we will have a 15th Dalai Lama amongst us. And, this is really, the authority rests solely with His Holiness and his designated, officials at the Ganden Podang. And this is something which we need to make it very, very clear. And that's why some of the legislations that we have right now, especially in the US Congress, with regards to Tibet Policy and Support Act, where there's such a strong language on succession and reincarnation, which I think is what we need. So we have to anticipate that the Chinese government will really meddle, interfere. So we need to start aligning, more countries, more governments behind us, so that when that interference happens, that we can actually counter that. And then, yes, I agree with what my two colleagues said. I think the CTA is super, super important, because the CTA is a democratic institution which reflects the aspirations and represents the well-being of all Tibetans. So the more we can do to strengthen the CTA, and I have laid out some major plans of how we can transform the CTA into more of a 21st century organization, especially around the use of digital transformation, digital governance, how we can make CTA more of a transnational organization. All that is very important.
Thank you very much, Kedorla. And that brings us to the end of round 1 of general questions for all candidates. We will now move on to round 2, which is specific questions for each candidate. The first of the round 2 questions goes to Kasur Lobsang Yantala, and the question is, as part of your platform, you have committed to resettling 10,000 Tibetans to the West. Why do you think that is important, and how will it impact Tibetan communities in India and Nepal?
Yes, this policy is very dear to me, and also it's very important, not just to find solution to the livelihood problems that are there in India, or to resolve the issue of undocumented Tibetan refugees in Nepal, but more towards strengthening the Tibetan freedom movement in Western countries. I strongly believe that this major policy of mine, when it is announced, the Chinese government definitely will not be happy about this, because they are the one who have always been trying to block this kind of initiative in the past. They are the one who are seriously doing research on the activities of Tibetans in Western countries. So they also understand that the political movements that the Tibetans in the Western countries are moving forward is a concern to China and their illegitimate rule in Tibet.
Thank you very much. The next specific question is for Kungo Kedorla. The question is, e-governance, e-charter, e-learning, and the digitization of other areas are an essential part of your platform. What kinds of investments are you considering the CTA dedicate to transitioning into a digital organizations, and what challenges or barriers do you see?
Well, yeah, I'm planning on investing millions of dollars in this initiative because I feel this is the way forward. Without this, my fear is that CTA will stagnate and will be left behind. And this is something which is doable because it's not something which I've just plucked from thin air. There's already a plan right now being developed, and the US government has provided funding, and we have experts from Estonia, a cybersecurity specialist from Ottawa, and then there's also a development specialist in India. So what we need to do is we need to do a thorough.
Thank you very much for that. And the last specific question is for Kasur Domagerila. The question is, there is an hour-long video in Tibetan of your manifesto given on your launch on November 6th. However, your campaign website in English does not have any details of that. Could you concisely share core ideas of your platform that were announced at your launch?
Well, thank you. I'm sorry that the English translation of my manifesto is not on my website or on my page. Well, I'm in my manifesto, which is in Tibetan language. I have eight such points which I believe that any Sikyong that comes in the future must undertake. Eight such points. I've not necessarily said that these are my 8 points. Number one, of course, is dealing with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That is one is the succession issue that you raised. You know that we already have a special meeting, third special meeting resolution, where we will not allow the People's Republic of China to interfere in the succession uh, or the recognition of the future Dalai Lama. And also, we talk about the security concerns of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Then also, there is a third element to it where we talk about the Sikyong or the administration must take advantage of the presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And on all big matters, must inform His Holiness and take guidance. That is number one. Number two, I have talked about the dialogue. In the dialogue, I have said, as mentioned earlier, that we do not have a dialogue today. So, therefore, we must do everything to create an environment towards a dialogue. I believe a dialogue is possible only when there is a political will from both the sides. We must make it possible. We must have, the Chinese government also want to come for a dialogue. Uh,
Thank you so much. I just want to take a quick moment right now to ask Kumokедorla to kindly check his headphones. It seems like towards the end there was no sound, so if you could take a moment to do that, I will move on with the next question. And this is for Lobsang Yadala. The question is, you have had a long and successful career in both Tibetan politics and the Tibetan not-profit sector. Why run for Sikyong now?
I have two reasons. One is, I thought that I should be answerable to my own conscience, given the fact that Tibetan people are going through a very critical stage. And if I am not able to sacrifice myself and leave my coveted job in America to serve the Tibetan cause. So when I grow old, I'm 54 now. When I grow old, maybe in late 70s, I should not regret myself by not saying that I have, run away from my responsibility as a Tibetan at times of need. So that was the first reason why I, when I offered my candidacy. And the second reason is I believe that, I have all the necessary experiences to lead the Tibetan people in Tibetan freedom struggle. As you have rightly said that I have, been the Minister of International Relations, Ministers of Finance, and Ministers of Health during Professor Sundar Rinpoche's time. And then I also had the opportunity to serve as his founders representative to North America for 5 years. And I also was a member of the Tibetan Parliament from Kham province. In addition to that, there are so many, I've headed so many important Tibetan non-governmental organizations, including Tibetan Center for Human Rights and Democracy. I was the first executive director when it was established. I'm currently the president of the Tibet Fund, which is responsible for raising funds to support humanitarian programs in India and Nepal. And I also have been the grassroots worker, I would say, the executive, committee, central committee member of the Tibetan Youth Congress, and I participated in so many number of conferences and movements.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope we have Kumokedorla back. Can we just test a quick sound, Kumokedorla?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Okay, so here's your question. You are the youngest candidate in the Sikyong election, and youth empowerment is a key part of your campaign. Why is it so important for you to elevate the role of Tibetan youth?
Budula, this is a great question. For our movement to really thrive and for us to really elevate the Tibetan freedom struggle to the next level, we need injection of new blood, new energy, new dynamism. And that, I feel, can best come from our younger generation. And especially now in the situation we find ourselves in, where we have more than half of the exiled population now living abroad. And we have now, both in exile and in the larger diaspora community, we have so many talented young Tibetans who are educated, who are capable, smart. And I think it really is the responsibility of any Sikyong candidate to be able to harness all that and provide opportunities for them to serve, right? Because I think the CTA of our parents' generation is no more. Before we used to have people serving 20 or 30 a whole lifetime. So that, I think, is hard to expect now. So regardless of how much time you can devote, but I think we should make it easy for the younger people to come and serve and just contribute and lead. So that's why in my administration, I'm going to really elevate the role of the youth. I'm going to create a new youth division. I'm going to have at least a couple of young ministers in the Kashak, and I will have more leadership positions for them in the offices of Tibet and in the settlement across India and Nepal. But it's really, really important that we include the youth and give them that recognition, that voice, and that responsibility, and place that trust on them, because I think they are ready, and we just need to just bring them in, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it easier for young Tibetans to come and serve in the CTA and in the Tibetan community.
Thank you very much for that. And the next and final specific question is for Kasur Domageri La. The question is, you are the only woman who is running and who has ever run for Sikyong. And you have specifically made a call for the support of Tibetan women to create history and have our first female Sikyong. How will having a female Sikyong be different for the Tibetan people?
Well, thank you for this question. I would like to very clearly state that, first of all, I seek election to the office of Sikyong not only because I am a woman. I seek election to this office because now we have in the Tibetan community, women of competence, women who can perform, women who can serve in various capacities. You are also a good example. I take it to be my responsibility today as a Tibetan woman and a woman who has been in the service for the longest time in the central administration to come forward and to enjoy these equal rights that are enshrined in a charter for the women to participate. Thirdly, I believe that, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama has also often said, I think, if I may quote, and also the recent pandemic around the world has proven and showed that women are and do make great leaders. And at this point of our history, I think we need a woman leader who can unite the Tibetan people together, take the entire nation, huge family, towards our common goal.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of round 2 questions. We will now move on to our closing statements. We are allotting 3 minutes to each candidate for their statements, and we will begin with Kumo Ketorla. Can we please get...
Thank you, Budila, and thank you for the host of this debate. We are now less than a month away from what I would say is one of the most important elections in our community. This is the election which I think will determine where we end up, So what I would like to say is wherever I have served in this movement and in this community, I have always delivered results. I have brought in more resources. I have achieved real tangible results. And in my 9 years of service with the CTA from 2011 to 2020, I have worked at multiple levels, and I've developed a very good understanding of what the needs are, and what are the main issues and challenges. And what I would like to do is I'd like to now put all that experience and make it available to the service of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, our 6 million Tibetans, and our Tibetan freedom struggle. And I feel that I can be that bridging figure where I can take both our elders and our younger people together and help transform the CTA into a kind of organization that is more professionally driven, and that with the use of technology can really create kind of this movement where we can not just retain what we have, but actually amplify and further create impact. So I know there are many candidates in this election, but if you're looking for someone that can represent the movement and represent the issue internationally, then please support my candidacy, because I have the experience. I have worked and lived in the U.S. for 20 years. I have developed relations with the highest level of officials in the U.S. government, Canadian government, the EU, and I have helped raise millions of dollars for the CTA. I will continue the good policies and the core programs of the current Sikyong and the current Kashak, but I will also help improve upon it. I will build on it by really taking the CTA more into a direction where there is more movement building, more movement, freedom movement work, and less administration. And that's really what we need, because we have to now focus on the political struggle. And I will work with the government and people of India, and because this is, the most important ally that we have. And I will also continue to invest and strengthen the relationship that we have with the U.S. government and other Western European governments as well. But again, I think the issue that we have in front of us is we need someone that can really not just manage the CTA internally, but most importantly, represent and advocate for the Tibet issue internationally. And that I'd like to propose is, what I can offer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kedarullah. And I just want to take a quick moment to recognize that you are participating here with us today despite having COVID. So, and I wish you a healthy recovery. Thank you for that. Next, we have the closing statement from Domagerila.
For moderating this session. I was really looking forward to it, especially because Putila, I thought I would get to see you face to face, and also thank you to the organizers for making this possible. Though of course, and also yes, very happy to see Kedarullah looking good, get well soon, and I'm myself not in the best of state today. I haven't slept properly for the last. Many hours. But nevertheless, I would like to conclude by saying that a time is here for us to elect a political leader who has a political mind and also a political way out. And I believe that I am that political leader. I believe that it is also time now for us to really push the Tibetan agenda forward, and that is what I believe we must start with India. And when I say start with India, then some of my dear contributors may think that, oh, maybe internationally she's not able to have much or not have the experience. Let me share with you that I have directly worked in organizing 2 World Parliamentarians Conventions on Tibet. That is interacting with a lot of parliamentarian bodies. At the same time, even if I take my recent visit to the United States where I was there to campaign, but then I took time out to call on a senator, the legendary, Senator Feinstein, whom of course I've known for a long time, who's a very, very close family friend to my late brother. Then also on Congressman Jill McGovern. And I do believe that both these efforts were very, very useful. So I would say that, to bring the Tibetan issue at the international level, one must have a political mind, a political sense. And I have that. And I have also served as a Sikyong, officiating as a Sikyong. I also know what is the responsibility of a Sikyong. And then, of course, being a woman, I think adds to the opportunity of many doors opening also. So therefore, I do hope that I will get a chance to serve as your Sikyong this time.
Thank you very much for that. And I will take a moment now to thank you for participating in this debate, despite having landed in India less than 24 hours ago. So I can imagine the exhaustion of that trip, and we really appreciate that you still were able to make it. And finally, we have closing statement from Losanyantala.
Thank you, Putla. I also want to echo my colleagues here by thanking Putla, you for being a excellent moderator today. And at the same time, all the organizing committee members, including Tenzin Kansala, Rignamla, Chimila, and Tobdenla, we truly appreciate that you have been able to organize this first very important debate amongst their friends. And I also wanted to thank Jamala and Kedola for being a part of this debate. I truly feel that this is something our community needs to understand our different perspectives, and also to understand that at least the voters will have can make an informed decision in terms of who they are going to vote at the final election. So in all my 30 years of public service in different leadership positions, everyone knows that I have served with complete honesty and utmost dedication. I will never fool the public or myself if I'm not confident in shouldering the heavy responsibility of the Sikyong. I never thought that, for one moment that I'm running after a name or power. So as I explained, that there are two reasons why I decided to run for this position. I believe that it is a critical time for the Tibetan people. Each one of us has to sacrifice something to serve our cause. And I have decided to leave my coveted job here in the US and offered my candidacy. I thought to myself a number of times that when I grow old, I should at least be answerable to my own conscience, that I have not run away from taking responsibility during the most critical time of our history. Secondly, I feel confident that I have necessary experience to serve as your Sikyong, including Sino-Tibetan dialogue, international advocacy, CTA administration, fundraising, and as grassroots activist. I have served as Cabinet Minister for International Relations, Finance and Health Departments. I've served as chief, as representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama to North America, heads of many important organizations, including Tibetan Center for Human Rights and Democracy, Tibetan Youth Congress, and National Democratic Party of Tibet. So to conclude, I wanted to remind you of my three major commitments that I have made. First is to re-establish the Sino-Tibetan dialogue and bring about substantial progress in negotiation. And I truly believe that I can do it given my past experiences in Sino-Tibetan dialogue. I have visited Tibet, I have visited China, I have reached out to a number of Chinese leaders, as well as Chinese academicians. So I feel confident that this is one area of expertise that I can extend if I become Sikyong. And the second announcement that I made was to create a digital platform called Project Songzen for Tibetans in Western countries. This is primarily because when CTA looks after its own territory and its own population, when it comes to South Asia, including India and Nepal, CTA has been focusing in terms of establishing schools, cultural centers, setting up lots of healthcare centers. But here in Western countries, we needed something else to preserve and protect our culture. And lastly, as I said, I have announced that I will be working to resettle minimum 10,000 Tibetans from South Asia to different Western countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that marks the end of this debate. I want to thank the three candidates for strengthening our democracy by participating in this debate. Thank you to our audience for joining. And I would like to thank the organizers of this historic event with the first ever English language debate of Sikyong candidates. We hope that this debate in English was helpful. This is just one debate with only a limited number of topics being covered. I encourage everyone to continue to seek more information on all Sikyong candidates and their platform. Tools like Smart Vote are helping Tibetans and Tibetan voters to make informed decisions. Their website is smartvote-tibet.org. Again, it's smartvote-tibet.org. Finally, a reminder that there is still time to register to vote for the elections. Voter registration is open December 23rd to 28th. The preliminary election is on January 3rd, 2021, and the final election day is April 11th, 2021. I would like to thank all of you. Have a good day, and we look forward to continued conversations and electing our next Sikyong. Bye-bye.
Pleasure, Dile. Thank you.